Welcome to The Complete Works, an official podcast of FilmBook. The Complete Works is a podcast that delves film by film into the filmography of a Hollywood actor, director, writer, or composer.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Complete Works podcast, a film podcast brought to you by the FilmBook. My name is Doug Hess, and if you're tuning in to the Complete Works podcast for the first time, what I do on this podcast is discuss a specific movie from a film actor, actress, director, or composer's film career. Currently, I'm working my way through Tom Cruise's career, and in this episode of the Complete Works podcast, I'll be discussing the film Losing It. You can find more information about the Complete Works podcast episodes on FilmBook. That's film-book.com, or by searching the term The Complete Works. If you're listening to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or another podcast service, please rate and review this episode. And if you're listening to this podcast on YouTube, please like our video, subscribe, and consider becoming one of our patrons on Patreon at patreon.com/FilmBook. Your support helps us create more engaging content. As I mentioned, we are going to be looking at the film career of Tom Cruise for a while. In this episode, it is Losing It, which was released on April the 22nd, 1983, here in the United States. The runtime is approximately an hour and 40 minutes. But before I get too far in, I just want to give you a quick synopsis of what this film is about. Maybe some of you have seen it, or it's been a while since you've seen this film. Just want to take you down memory lane or give you a quick overview of it. So this is a teen sex comedy. It's set in 1965, which follows four Los Angeles school friends, Woody, Dave, Spider, and Wendell. And they have a series of misadventures that gets them into trouble as they start to travel south to the border to Tijuana, Mexico, for an overnight cruise, and it causes trouble, and to settle a pact to lose their virginity along the way before the night is over. Well, in the process, there's a young woman named Kathy, who is played by Shelley Long, that accompanies them for different reasons, and that is because she is trying to get a quick divorce from her husband in Mexico. So that's kind of a quick version of what Losing It is about. Again, released in 1983. It's really that, a sex teen comedy that was based loosely in 1965, but was released in 83. You know, one of the things I'll tell you about this film, what I thought about it, I mean, it's hard to watch. It's not a great movie by any stretch of the imagination. It's meant to be exactly what it is, a teen sex comedy. Some stupid things are going on there within the film. At times, I'll be honest with you, it was hard to watch. I don't recall seeing this early film of Tom Cruise or Shelley Long, seen it at all. So when I watch it for the first time, it's exactly what I expected it to be. Kind of a stupid teen movie, if you will, in terms of that. But I think what is really interesting is that it helped really launch two careers. One was Tom Cruise, the other was Shelley Long. And even though it wasn't it was a hard movie to sit and watch the full hour and 40 minutes of it, I will say it's interesting that we do see two stars. Obviously, Shelley Long was in some films, but I also remember her from the sitcom Cheers in the 80s, and then, of course, Tom Cruise, the megastar that he is today, in terms of that. So, you know, when I'm watching this film, like I said, it was kind of hard to watch at times, just because I really thought it was kind of a goofy movie. You know, you have these four kids. They're teenagers. They want to lose their virginity, and they're traveling to Mexico because that's exactly what they think they're going to be able to do, is have a good time. They have this vision of what is really going to happen, and then in reality, they really find themselves into trouble. You know, one of the scenes that I thought was kind of goofy is on their way down to Mexico, they stop into a convenience store. They think they're going to be able to get some food, and that is when they see Kathy and Larry. Larry is played by Cale Brown, and Kathy as his wife, played by Shelley Long. They're having this argument, and this argument is basically, you can tell that they haven't been getting along for a while, and this is one of those marriage-ending arguments that they both had enough with each other so much. And it's really goofy that while the kids the young men are kind of caught up in this argument that's going on, you can see them trying to steal and stuff food in their shirts. It's bulging. It's very obvious what they're doing. It's just not really realistic. But then again, it's a teen comedy, so I want to put things in perspective and not get too carried away with things that are just outright bizarre, weird, something that should throw a red flag at you. Again, this is Hollywood in terms of that. So here the boys are. They're getting ready to leave. They're getting in their cars to make the getaway, and out comes Shelley Long, or Kathy, and she says, I'm getting ready to go to Mexico. I want to get a divorce. That's when she kind of finds out that these 4 boys are going to Mexico as well. And she joins the crusade, if you will, to get down there. Another thing that I thought was kind of funny, but was kind of weird, is, you know, they get to Tijuana in Mexico. They're dropping Shelley off at the lawyer's office. And then here comes these 4 boys. They think they're going to go get laid. They go out there and they find this, what's the word I want to look at? Brothel. And they find these 3 beautiful women, and they come down. They're just gorgeous, and they get ready to take the boys upstairs, only to be fooled that the 3 beautiful women, they leave, and they're set there with women that they may not have picked for themselves. Now, 2 of the boys, they're like, you know, it is what it is. Woody, played by Tom Cruise, he thinks he can go through it, but he can't. And he decides to leave. And basically what's happening is everybody else is kind of making fun of him for not being able to go through that. And, you know, to me, in a lot of ways, that's a classic movie. And I say classic not as in something that you're really wanting to watch, but it's more predictable. In terms of that, that there's always 2 or 3 that's going to go on, or they want to go along with it, and there's somebody that's kind of holding back that really has this moral issue or a compass that kind of goes off and says, hey, this may be something that I want to pass on and do something different in terms of that. So that was kind of some of the takes on it. It's definitely an R-rated movie because of some of the things that the characters do in this film. Now, when it comes to specific characters or actors in this, again, I kind of want to go over this again and state this, that even while I'm not, by no means is this a great movie or something that you probably want to see more than once, in my opinion, it is kind of interesting that it really did launch, in a way, 2 stars. And I talked about this, Tom Cruise and Shelley Long. I'm not saying because of this movie, but it didn't really hurt their careers. Tom Cruise, as we know, is a megastar, A-list actor. Shelley Long is went on with Cheers and some other films in terms of that. So Tom Cruise, Shelley Long, I talked about that. Dave, Jackie, Earl, Haley, Spiders, played by John Stockwell. what is interesting about his character that kind of, he has these, what was it, these black high tops that he's wearing. That was, and I think there's one scene in there, if I remember, he's trying to climb over a fence. That was kind of interesting, if you will, in terms of that. But nothing really stuck out in my mind with any of these characters other than it was kind of a poor movie, and they did the best that they could with that. And I think that is important to note because not everybody could carry a bad movie and at least make it worthwhile, entertaining to watch, but somehow they do. They're able to do this. For the 80s, how would I rack this up with other films in the 80s in this genre? In a way, something that comes to my mind in the 70s would be Porky's. In terms of this, it was just kind of a goofy movie about teenage boys wanting to lose their virginity, wanting to have sex, and they were just horny teenage boys. And I think it kind of really fits into that mold with Woody or Tom Cruise's character, having that moral compass, if you will, trying to make things a little bit better in terms of that. It is what it is. I mean, it's hard for me to really put into words what I think this film does. Porky's kind of becomes a cult following. I think a lot of it is because of its catchy name. And how they're really trying to push the boundaries. I don't necessarily think that Losing It has that same appeal. It's kind of a notch or two down from that type of a film. Again, is this a great film? No, it's not a great film. I don't even think it's a good film. It's basically an idea or a concept that I think anybody could have wrote. It's pretty standard with the type of thought process that you would have with a film like this. And it's just not something that, I'll be honest with you, that I thought was, I didn't even think it was funny in certain parts that I probably should have been laughing and thought it should have been funny. It just didn't appeal to me in that way. And I don't know, maybe I wasn't in the right mood to watch the film. Fair enough. Granted, maybe I should have been in a little bit better film. As I do at the very end, I'll give you my official ranking on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being terrible, 10 being just outstanding. I'll give you that here in a minute. I'm almost leaning towards bad. I hate to really do this with the film. And I probably say it's mediocre. That's probably where I'll probably just kind of land, just because it has a couple people in there that I thought was Haley's in it, Cruz is in it, Shelley Long. So you have some people that we think of star power today, but it was just raw. It really was just raw. How did it make me feel? It was kind of like, It was just another teen sex movie, to be honest with you. It didn't give me that, I got to go out and watch it, or I want to watch it again. I want to say it's a bad movie, but I don't want to be that harsh. I'll say that it was so-so. It was okay. I get the concept of what they were trying to do. And actually, Shelley Long and I think Tom Cruise and Haley, they're not terrible actors in here. It was just that I think that's because they were so professional and good, and maybe because I hadn't seen it at the time, that I am giving the film much more credit than it deserves based on having 2 or 3 actors in there that I know go on to become really good actors or actresses. And so maybe in a lot of cases, I'm giving them more credit than they deserve and giving it a little bit more of a feeling that it deserves just because of I know what that talent is and what they can do in there. Okay? So that is, yeah. So a couple things. I'm just going to kind of move on. I want to talk about the box office. So it had a budget of approximately $7 million. It grossed in the U.S. and Canada 1.2. Opening weekend was less than $500,000. And grossed worldwide 1.2, a little over 1.2. I think that really says it all. You know, if you have a $7 million budget, you can't even break $1 million. You don't even break $500,000 the opening weekend, and really you're only making about 1.2 million worldwide gross. I think that really just says a lot. There wasn't a lot of stars, so we got to remember Shelley Long, Tom Cruise. They're not the stars that would have drawn people in at that moment in 1983. So I think we have to put some of that in there. But the other thing I would just say is part of it is it's not that good of a film, and it doesn't really appeal to a lot of people. At least I don't think it does in terms of that. So I think there's some things that we got to keep in perspective there. These guys were not major stars at the time, and I think in a lot of ways that kind of hurt the process. So, I mean, it is what it is, and we'll kind of go from there. Some trivia. Hopefully you find this as interesting as we did as we were putting this together. So, trivia, because this was a low-budget, non-union film, they used at least 10 crew members as actors, and many others didn't want their names on the credit. So I think that kind of sums up what I'm trying to say in terms of that. They also hired a lot of local people from California to be extras, and a few were put in as principals with liners in terms of that. The art department covered 80% of the storefronts on the main boulevard with period-looking facades. In terms of that, reportedly Tom Cruise said in an interview with Playboy magazine that he did this movie because of Jackie Earle Haley. The film was shot partly in Kosciuszko, California, and one occasion the cast partied at the Roxy on Sunset Boulevard. Apparently, Tom Cruise was dancing with an Asian girl when her boyfriend noticed and slipped on a pair of brass knuckles. This was noticed by one of the leads, and they hurried Cruise out of the club, jokingly later that they saved his beautiful face. Throughout the movie, it was largely set in Mexico, Tijuana. None of the film was actually shot there. Cast members Tom Cruise, John Stockwell worked together again a few years later in Top Gun in 1986. Actor John P. Navin Jr., who played Wendell, was the first person through the front door in the very first episode of Cheers in 82, which also starred Shelley Long. Tom Cruise and John P. Navin Jr. also appeared together in Taps in 81. This was kind of released as the Porky's 3. And remember, I kind of said that this kind of piggyback, no pun intended, with Porky's that was released in 81. I couldn't remember. I thought it was the late 70s, but it was actually 81. Porky's 2 the next day was actually released in 83, and this is, like I said, kind of considered Porky's 3. Both Tom Cruise and Shelley Long were on the verge of becoming big stars from 4 different mediums. We already talked a little bit about that. The movie stars 2 Oscar Academy Award nominees, both Tom Cruise and Jackie Earle Haley. In a 2010 interview of episode 18, actor Jackie Earle Haley said when he had previously earlier been a pizza delivery driver, that he once delivered pizza to his movie editor, Richard Hasley. The movie Losin It is spelled with all lowercase letters during the opening credits. Let's see here. The movie was made and first released about 17 years after the first. The picture is supposed to be set in 1965. Excuse me. First of two consecutive movies where Tom Cruise stars as a high school virgin. The next would be Risky Business. John Stockwell and Tom Cruise played polar opposite. Stockwell is cocky and Cruise is not. In terms of that, star billing: Tom Cruise was first, Jackie Earle Haley second, John Stockwell third, and Shelley Long fourth. On the DVD, Cruise and Long are solely topped billed. In here, let's see here. Most of the movie's lead male cast were born around 1961-62, which is just a few years before the film's setting of 1965. Let's see here. One of two early 1980 American movie featuring prostitution, starring actress Shelley Long, After Night Shift in 1982. The name of the motel in the movie was the Alamo Motel. The movie's opening prologue states, "A long time ago in a high school not so far away." The name of the high school gridiron American football team was the Eagles in there. The name of the mystical pills that Dave, Jackie Earle Haley, was constantly seeking was Spanish Fly. Let's see here. Given how the film was received after its release, Tom Cruise said it made him realize that he needed to be more selective of his choices and seek out good directors. So, just a few things to make up a little bit of trivia regarding the film Losin It. On a scale of 1 to 10, I've been debating this since I saw it and trying to figure out what would be a suitable number. 1 being just terrible and awful, 10 being great. It's nowhere near that. I'm going to give it a 3. I don't want to be too harsh, but it is what it is. It wasn't really a good movie at all. It was something that I kind of struggled to stay focused with. Even though I would encourage you, especially if you're a Tom Cruise fan, I would encourage you to see it. Even movies that aren't the greatest still need to be seen so we can appreciate other things that an actor or actress or maybe even a director can learn from and grow from these situations. While, like I said, I don't think it's a great film by any stretch of the imagination. I give it a 3 out of 10 in stars. Like I said, some of the performances are not terrible. Shelley Long, Cruise, early. They're not necessarily bad performances. It's just really a bad script. And they did... And they're very early in their career, so they make the most out of it. And, as we just heard from a minute ago from something that Tom Cruise said, after he saw it, he saw the reviews, it made him really focus that, hey, I got to really take this serious, and when I see a script, I just can't jump at it. I got to make sure it's a great script, great director, or a good script, a good director. We don't necessarily be great, because not every film is great that people star in, but they do need to be a little bit more receptive, pay a little bit more attention on what they're doing. So that is my take of Losin It, a 3 out of 10. Still encourage you to look at it and watch the film because of some of the actor and actresses that are in this film. Well, I want to thank you for listening to this episode of the Complete Works podcast. Be sure to like us on like this episode and subscribe for future episodes. You'll find FilmBook on all major social media networks, so give us a follow. You can find more of my work on FilmBook's official website, which is film-book.com. Just search for Doug Hess or The Complete Works. You can also find me on Twitter at HessDoug14, also on Instagram at HessDoug14. Tune in next time when I review and analyze the next Tom Cruise film. Thank you for listening, and we will see you then.
Thanks for listening to The Complete Works. Find more of The Complete Works on FilmBook, on your favorite podcast service, and on YouTube.